At Ridgeway High, in a quiet town on the edge of Texas, Mr. Henry Watkins was just the janitor. Every morning, he swept hallways, scrubbed bathrooms, and silently fixed leaky pipes before anyone else noticed. Most students barely acknowledged him, and some even mocked him behind his back, especially in the auto mechanics class. "Hey, old man, don't mop too close to the Mustang. Wouldn't want you to break something," a student named Brian would often shout, followed by snickers from his buddies. Henry would smile politely and keep working, but what nobody knew was that this old man once worked as a lead engine technician at a top automotive design firm in Detroit. He had designed parts for race cars, tuned engines for professional tracks, and even had a few patents under his name. But life took a turn after his wife passed away. He moved south for peace, took the janitor job at Ridgeway High, and never looked back. Until one Wednesday afternoon, the auto shop class had entered a statewide student mechanic competition. Their entry, a classic Ford Mustang with a dead engine. No matter what the students did, replacing wires, adjusting spark plugs, installing a new starter, the car wouldn't roar to life. Their teacher, Mr. Donnelly, was out sick, and time was ticking. Jason, a quiet student passionate about cars, was growing frustrated. "It should have turned over by now," he said, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Face it, man, we're not winning this year," Brian grunted, tossing his wrench down. "We need a miracle." Just then, Mr. Watkins entered to mop the corner of the shop, humming a blues tune to himself. Jason, in desperation, looked at the janitor. "Mr. Watkins, you know anything about engines?" A few students laughed, but Henry just walked over to the car. "Mind if I take a look?" he asked gently. Brian rolled his eyes. "Be my guest, sir. Maybe it just needs a good mopping." But Jason stepped aside, handing him a wrench. Henry leaned in, adjusted the carburetor by touch alone, checked the wiring with his eyes, then knelt down to examine the fuel line. "You boys ever check the grounding wire?" he asked. Jason blinked. No." "Check here," Henry pointed. "Right where it mounts to the chassis, rusted out." They scraped it clean and reattached it. Henry sat in the driver's seat, turned the key, and the engine coughed, sputtered, then roared like a lion waking from sleep. The room went dead silent. Brian's mouth hung open. Jason stared, stunned. Even Mr. Donnelly, who'd just walked in late from a doctor's appointment, froze at the door. "How?" Jason began. Henry smiled and stepped out. "Once built one of these for a race in Daytona. Sounds like she still remembers me." The next day, word spread. Students whispered in hallways, "Did you hear what the janitor did in auto shop?" By lunchtime, everyone knew. The janitor wasn't just a janitor. He was a legend. That afternoon, Mr. Donnelly pulled Henry aside. "Would you consider helping the class prep for the competition? They could really use someone like you." Henry hesitated, mop in hand. "I'm just the janitor, Donnelly." "No, Henry," he replied. "You're the engine this class needs." Henry looked back at the Mustang. The students crowded around it, and something sparked in his eyes. "All right," he nodded, "but I'm not doing the work for them. I'll teach them to listen, to the engine and to each other." And just like that, the man they laughed at became the mentor they never saw coming. 2 weeks had passed since Mr. Henry Watkins, the quiet janitor, had brought the Mustang engine back to life. Now, he stood in front of Ridgeway High's auto mechanics class, not with a mop in hand, but with grease on his fingers and blueprints spread across the workbench. The students had stopped laughing. Brian, once the most dismissive of all, now listened intently as Henry taught them about torque ratios and airflow optimization. Jason had become his right hand, eager to absorb every drop of wisdom Henry shared. "This engine doesn't care how old you are," Henry told them one afternoon, pointing at the freshly tuned Mustang. "It only listens to skill, patience, and respect." The team was preparing for the Texas State High School Auto Build-Off, a regional competition showcasing engine rebuilds and mechanical innovation. Ridgeway High had never made it past qualifiers, but this year, with Henry guiding them, something felt different. The auditorium in Austin buzzed with energy. Teams from elite schools rolled in custom-built rides, sleek Camaros, roaring Chargers, even a modded Tesla with an electric drivetrain rework. When Ridgway pulled up their aged but now beautifully restored 1969 Ford Mustang, eyes rolled. "Seriously, that rust bucket?" one kid muttered from another school. But the judges took notice of the engine, clean, precise, and humming with life. Each team was given a final on-the-spot performance test. Ridgway's challenge, cold start under pressure, emissions check, and torque test. Jason took the driver's seat. Brian handled the diagnostics. Henry, standing back in a Ridgway staff jacket, watched with arms crossed. Jason turned the key. The Mustang came alive instantly. No sputter, no hesitation, just pure, refined power. The judges raised eyebrows. As the team moved to the emissions test, a minor scare hit. A sensor wire shook loose. "Henry!" Brian shouted. Henry stayed still. "You've got this. Trust your training." Brian took a breath, remembered what Henry taught about grounding faults, and corrected the issue in seconds. The judges finished the score sheet. Ridgway had passed each test with high marks. And then came the final announcement. Second place, Crockett County High. Polite applause. And this year's first place, Ridgway High. The room froze. A moment passed before the Ridgway students erupted in cheers. Henry smiled, quietly wiping a tear from his eye. News of the win spread fast. Henry was featured in the local newspaper with the headline, "Janitor turned coach leads Ridgway to victory." Even the school board took notice. Within a week, Henry was offered an official position as auto shop instructor. He declined politely. "Teaching full-time isn't for me, but I'll help after hours if they'll have me." Mr. Donnelly grinned. They'd be lucky to. A final surprise. On the last day before spring break, Jason handed Henry a small box. "What's this?" Henry asked. "Open it." Inside was a metal nameplate. It read, "The Henry Watkins Auto Lab." The school had renamed the shop in his honor. Brian stepped forward, nervous. "We didn't get it before. We laughed, but you gave us something better than a win. You gave us pride." Henry looked at them all. Boys who now stood tall, proud, and skilled. "Engines break," he said, "but what you build with your hands and your heart, that lasts." The students clapped, and Henry for once let them see how much it meant. As the Mustang revved behind them, echoing through the school parking lot, everyone knew this janitor's legacy would never be swept away.